My family had always known that the inheritance of Blackwood Manor would come with its fair share of challenges. The old plantation house had stood for centuries, bearing witness to the dark chapters of our family's history, but nothing could have prepared us for the chilling reality that awaited us within its walls, the vengeful spirits of former slaves, seeking retribution for past wrongs. As we approached the imposing mansion, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The air was heavy with the weight of history, the sins of the past echoing in the rustling leaves and creaking timbers of Blackwood Manor. It was a place that had been built on the backs of enslaved people, a place that had thrived through cruelty and oppression. The moment we stepped inside the mansion, we felt it, a presence, an otherworldly force that seemed to seep through the very walls. The atmosphere was stifling, and the air was filled with whispers, as if the ghosts of the past were still bound to the plantation, unable to find peace. As night fell, the mansion came alive with eerie noises, footsteps echoing in empty halls, distant cries that sent shivers down our spines, and the mournful wails of spirits in torment. We huddled together in the dimly lit living room, our faces pale with fear, as we realized that we were not alone in Blackwood Manor. The spirits made their presence known in increasingly terrifying ways. Objects moved on their own, doors slammed shut with a deafening force, and we could hear the faint, anguished voices of the restless souls. But it was the apparitions that haunted us the most, the ethereal figures of former slaves, their eyes filled with anger and sorrow. Desperate for answers, we began to research the history of Blackwood Manor, uncovering a disturbing truth. The former owner, our ancestor, had been a cruel and sadistic master, known for his brutal treatment of the enslaved people who had toiled on the plantation. It was said that he had committed unspeakable acts of violence, and the spirits of the oppressed had never found peace. It became clear that the vengeful spirits sought retribution for the horrors they had endured. They wanted justice for the lives they had lost, the families torn apart, and the suffering they had endured under our family's rule. As the days turned into weeks, the haunting escalated. We could no longer deny the reality of the vengeful spirits that stalked us through the mansion. They left messages scrawled on walls in invisible ink, messages that spoke of their pain and their longing for justice. The walls seemed to weep, as if the very structure of the house had absorbed the anguish of the past. We consulted with paranormal experts, hoping to find a way to appease the spirits and put their restless souls to rest. They conducted seances and performed rituals to communicate with the vengeful spirits, but the apparitions grew more aggressive, their anger and frustration mounting with each attempt. One night, as we gathered in the dimly lit dining room for a seance, the spirits made their presence known in a horrifying way. The room grew ice-cold, and the candles flickered and sputtered out one by one. In the darkness, we heard their voices, a chorus of anguished cries that sent chills down our spines. The table began to shake violently, its legs scraping against the wooden floor. It was as if the spirits were trying to communicate their pain, their anger, and their demand for justice. We could feel their presence all around us, their ethereal figures looming in the darkness. In that moment, I made a decision. I would do whatever it took to make amends for the sins of our ancestors, to help the vengeful spirits find the peace they had long been denied. With the help of a local historian, I uncovered records of the enslaved people who had once lived and suffered on the plantation. I discovered their names and stories, and I began to reach out to their descendants, seeking to make reparations for the past. As I shared the history of Blackwood Manor and our family's role in its dark legacy, I was met with a mix of anger, sorrow, and forgiveness. Some descendants wanted nothing to do with us, while others were willing to work towards reconciliation. Together, we organized a ceremony, a gathering of descendants, family members, and local community members. We stood on the grounds of Blackwood Manor, beneath the sprawling oak trees that had borne witness to so much pain, and we offered our heartfelt apologies and acknowledgments of the past. As we spoke the names of the enslaved people who had suffered on the plantation, we felt a change in the air, a shift in the energy that surrounded us. It was as if the vengeful spirits were listening, their presence no longer filled with anger and torment, but with a sense of acceptance and forgiveness. In the weeks that followed, the haunting of Blackwood Manor began to subside. The apparitions grew less frequent, the eerie noises less unsettling. It was as if the spirits had found a measure of peace, their torment finally eased by our acknowledgement of the past and our efforts to make amends. As the years passed, Blackwood Manor became a place of reflection and remembrance, a place where the horrors of the past were not forgotten, but acknowledged and learned from. The vengeful spirits had found their peace, and the legacy of cruelty and oppression had been replaced by a commitment to justice and reconciliation. Our family had come to understand that the sins of the past could not be erased, but they could be acknowledged, learned from, and used as a catalyst for change. Blackwood Manor had been a place of darkness, but it had also become a place of healing and transformation, a place where the vengeful spirits of the past had finally found their peace.